14th, Valentine's Day, the dumbest made up consumer holiday on earth. And if you're wondering, no, I didn't get my hair cut for Valentine's Day. I got my hair cut because I get my hair cut. Don't put the two and two together.
You randomly chose the 14th of every month to get your hair cut, not because you knew it would fall on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Granted, it doesn't fall on the 14th every month, Adam, because there's not 30 days in every month. But okay, it's every Thursday.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Because of the work schedule and everything, you know?
Yeah, so that way you're getting a haircut for Valentine's Day, for Thanksgiving, for everything else that falls on a Thursday.
Thanksgiving, yes. That was actually where I started. Well, no, wait, what are you talking about? No, because they're not open on Thanksgiving.
I don't know when barbershops are open.
I mean, you know that. Yes, you do. You think they're open on Thanksgiving?
I don't know. Restaurants were open on Thanksgiving, right?
It's like Chinese restaurants. Anyway, we're glad to have you with us on the last day before the All-Star break. I do hope everyone has a happy Valentine's Day. I almost said Thanksgiving. Because, you know what, just because I'm not a big fan of it doesn't mean that I don't want you to enjoy it. I don't care if you do or don't. I hope you do. You know, that would be good. But anyway, we've got 3 games, Adam, and then we head into the break. So let's get it done. Some injury news. I'll throw it over to you. Give us the injury news. Just go team by team if you'd like. What we have, put it on the table, and then we'll get going.
Like none of it. I mean,
what?
Tony Parker and Bismack Biyombo are out for Charlotte. New York's a mess, but that's not really injury related, except for Mario Hezonja is doubtful. Atlanta doesn't have Jeremy Lin, obviously. Moutier is still out. Yeah, Moutier is still out. Elfrid Payton's questionable for the Pelicans. Jeremy Grant and Dennis Schroeder are out for Oklahoma City. Jeremy Lin obviously is not on the Hawks anymore. Jalen Adams is probable.
Seems like a decent amount of injury news to me.
Okay, there's not a lot of useful injury news. And we're not waiting on much.
Fair enough. Oh, no. I was talking about the guys that were already out, just so we could get a decent idea. Let's get it started. 3 games here. Orlando and Charlotte. This game in Orlando. Top 3 defensive ratings since the start of 2019. Pretty good. Magic 3.5-point favorites, 215 total. This is, look, honestly, it's my least favorite game, but it's a 3-game slate. So least favorite means, you know, you're still playing guys from this game, whether you want to or not. Let's talk about the Orlando Magic. Nik Vucevic is 10K on DraftKings. He is 10.5 on FanDuel. It's a pretty penny despite being such a good player.
Yeah, it is. But again, we have him on a slate where he's not competing with guys like Embiid or Jokic or Towns. So the fact that he's averaging 1.42 fantasy points per minute this year is actually good. You know, you're not comparing him to 1.6 per minute guys in his price range. And it's not a bad matchup. You know, Charlotte doesn't play at a fast pace. Neither does Orlando. So I'm with you as far as this not really being a game that I like. But I do like the spot for Vooch against a Charlotte front court that really has not been very good recently. Zeller returning, I don't think really does a whole lot to change that. Vooch, as you pointed out, probably like a month or so ago now, he's still the only player in the NBA that's averaging at least a 20% rebound percentage, 20% assist percentage, and 20% usage rate across the entire season. So still, you know, clearly a top play for me at the position, even though outside of him, there's not a lot to like in this game.
Yeah. Like guys like Isaac have been good, but I don't know if I'm getting there. He's not particularly cheap. You know, he's 5'8" on DraftKings, 6'8" on FanDuel. I think he can do better despite only having 3 games. Aaron, where are you at on Aaron Gordon though? Because he's 6,600. He's only 800 more than Isaac now on DraftKings. He's 7,500 on FanDuel. That's a little bit more prohibitive for me when he's sandwiched in between John Collins and Julius Randle.
Yeah, it's really tough for me on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I think it's fine, especially because he has small forward eligibility there. And as anyone who read the deep dive article today knows, small forward is an absolute dumpster fire. The only player that actually got anything written about them was Paul George because there was nothing good to say about anyone else. So,
wow, really?
It's bad.
Wow.
The fact that you can play Gordon at small forward on DraftKings certainly helps as well. I'm not concerned about the recent minutes. You know, obviously, the first game he was questionable to even play. And then the second game was a blowout when they just absolutely destroyed the Pelicans last game. So I still think you get, somewhere between 34 to 36 minutes from Gordon, assuming this game stays competitive. So I do like him more than Jonathan Isaac. I agree with you on Isaac. He is playing really well. He seems to have taken a step forward as far as being able to produce offensively. But at the same time, his price tag is pretty quickly rising as a result. Even if I project him for 30 minutes and even if I give him like a 20% usage rate, which is what he's had over his last 5 games, he still doesn't really project as that good of a play at his quickly rising price tag.
Yeah, I mentioned today on the strategy show that it's tough with a guy like him because, the recent sample has been really solid, but it's still not that big. And he's only been in the league for a year and a half, and last year didn't get much of an opportunity. The beginning of this year didn't get a whole lot of opportunity. So, it's tough to analyze or really evaluate a guy when you're saying, all right, is he maturing? Is he getting better? Is Steve Clifford using him differently? Or is this just a blip on the radar? Is this to come back down? Should we see some regression? I really don't know.
Yeah, and
But go ahead.
so I mean, if you look at his shooting, for the season, he has a 47.5% effective field goal percentage. In 6 games since the start of February, he's at 54.4%. Sure, he's shooting more, but I don't think he just magically learned how to shoot when the calendar flipped to February. I think that even if we give credit to the fact he's a young player who is improving, it's really, really likely that he's playing above his head right now.
Right. Yeah, and that happens quite often. Anything else for Orlando?
No, not really. I mean, Evan Fournier probably plays like 36 minutes, gets you a nice 0.72 fantasy points per minute for 36 minutes.
Yep. And then with Ross, you're kind of just with Terrence Ross, he has some really solid games, and when he's shooting really well, he gets some good minutes. But you know what you're getting with Ross, and what I mean is he's predictably unpredictable.
Yep.
Like he might have 30 minutes and drop 30 points. He's done it twice just over the last 15 days. But he could also play 22 minutes and shoot 1 for 7 in 18 minutes like he did last time. So
Yep.
he's all over the map.
Yeah,
And
DJ Augustine's still really cheap too. Again, it's not like it's a priority, but he's cheap.
Yeah, you can definitely do better, but I agree. He's discounted for sure. On the Charlotte side, based on the restrictions with only 3 games, there's no question there's going to be sizable ownership on these Charlotte players, and you've got Jeremy Lamb right now. Since our last update on the awesemo.com ownership projections, which if you want to get half off of your subscription for the first month, 50% off, just use the promo code Deeper Dive when you sign up. It's all one word and it's very simple. Deeper Dive, one word. Sign up using or clicking join now on the homepage. Select your plan. Select the add-on for Fantasy Cruncher too if you'd like. It's definitely helpful. And then click coupon. Got a coupon? You say, yes, I do. Deeper Dive, all one word. Get 50% off your first month. Hopefully we will see you over there. Get that out of the way early. But Jeremy Lamb, with our ownership projections since the last update, you're looking at the 4th highest ownership on the slate. Talking about this DraftKings, by the way. You're talking Nicholas Batum coming in at 7th highest, 31% right now, projected. Kemba Walker, 26%. Even Marvin Williams up at 20%, and Cody Zeller at 20. So granted, there aren't a ton of players on this slate, but you have you have the entire starting lineup at 20+% projected right now on DraftKings.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising to me. It's not that I dislike guys like Kemba or Lamb or Zeller, but I'd be kind of surprised if I get that high on them. Kemba, I think
Lamb is the most surprising, don't you think? With that 39%. I know the minutes are up the last 2 games, and Monk is playing less, and Parker is not in, but still, I'm surprised to see him that high.
Yeah, I think it probably has to do mostly with the positions. I mean, shooting guard, small forward's really bad today. The price tag's still nice, but that's kind of the thing. He played 38 minutes last game. He played 36 the game before that. Prior to that, he had not played more than 30 minutes in 11 consecutive games. We've seen James Borrego all season long be all over the place, not only with Jeremy Lamb's minutes, but with everyone on this team outside of Kemba Walker. Primarily the wings. Just it's a game flow dependent thing. It depends how you're playing. So while Lamb certainly can play 36 minutes again, if he's playing poorly or if the second unit does well or something, there's nothing that changed really that makes it so he's suddenly locked into this massive minute role. And if he's projected to be the 4th highest owned player on the slate, then I don't think you necessarily have to get there. I think he's a good play. He's right there with Kemba and Zeller for me as far as my favorite plays from Charlotte. It's just that I still think this is an unappealing game. I still think that you can take on risky but lower owned options from like the Knicks or the Hawks game without having to roster a really popular Jeremy Lamb.
Yep, fair enough. I'm with you. Uh, it's look, maybe he does, but it's unlikely that he goes out there drops another 50 spot. The ball moves around a lot there. Outside of Kemba, hey, over the last month they're playing at a bottom 10 pace with a top 3 defensive rating. They really have, and you had mentioned this a week or so ago. They really have played significantly better defensively. And I'm not going to pretend that I know exactly why. I don't know if Clifford or if Steve Clifford has changed his scheming differently defensively. I don't know what it is, but they have been a lot better on defense. Now, this isn't to say that you can't score on them, Adam, but the Orlando Magic have a 106.9 defensive rating over the last 1 month and a half, behind Milwaukee and the Utah Jazz. And from October 16th, the start of the season, through December 18th, Orlando's defensive rating sat at 108.7. So they're 2 possessions per 2 points per 100 possessions better. They went from 15th to 3rd. They do look really solid. So it's not that I'm worried about it, but I do think it's a fadeable spot for Lamb, or I should say lower, coming under the field on Lamb when you're looking at 34, 35, 36%.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that I dislike Lamb. I mean, I wrote him
Right.
up in the article as one of like I think 3 shooting guards that I mentioned. I think he is a very good play. It's just that on these shorter slates where you get concentrated ownership, you want to keep in mind that you want to look at it still as how certain is what is the likelihood of this player doing well. And I think that really for everyone in this game, especially on the Charlotte side, where again you're facing an Orlando team that is playing very well defensively, and both of these teams play slow. The reason that these guys are so popular is simply because of the slate. It's not because they're in a great spot. It's not because of really anything other than lack of other options. And when that's the case, you can be a little bit more confident in taking some chances on other guys.
I'm with you. All right. In terms of prioritizing here, you've got Cody Zeller coming off of a 35-minute game. Bismack Biyombo out here. I don't expect to see 35 minutes for Zeller again, but I do expect him to see quite a bit of work. And then Marvin Williams and Batum, the silver lining when it comes to, low per minute guys, particularly Batum, is that in close games, they're playing 35 minutes every single night.
Yeah, and the price tags are cheap enough where they're certainly in consideration. 4,500 on Batum is cheap enough where now, I have him projected right around 24 DraftKings points. So nothing that I expect to really break a slate, but he's cheap enough where that, it plays, especially because, again, he's shooting guard or small forward, depending on your site. Marvin Williams still getting minutes at center. Zeller played, 36 last game, like you said. I have him for 34 here, figuring he'll basically match up with Vooch. But I would expect Williams to pick up either all of the rest of the center minutes or Kaminsky to play like 6 or 8, or Hernangomez rather to play 6 or 8, and Williams to get the rest. So, I have Williams in for 34 minutes, and at 4,600 on DraftKings at small forward, that's pretty reasonable as well.
Yep. Can't ask for much more than that. And you know what? He's been pretty solid. All right. Finally, before we move on, Kemba Walker, he is on a slate where we have Russell Westbrook, Holiday if you're on DraftKings, Trae Young, Dennis Smith Jr. at the position. Then it obviously falls off a cliff. Your shooter's out. Elfrid Payton has been upgraded to questionable, but I don't know what the deal is there. I'm not expecting him to play. I don't see the point before the All-Star break. Pretty much everybody else down there is it's ugly territory. What do you make of Kemba here when comparing him to the likes of Westbrook and Holiday and Young and the other point guards in the mid range and up?
Yeah, it's tough for me to prioritize him here, especially on DraftKings where you do have Drew Holiday there. I obviously like Westbrook more than Kemba. I like Drew more than Kemba. I have him and Trae Young very, very comparable, like almost identical when you factor in their price tags. And I like Dennis Smith more. So it's not that I dislike him, but again, it's just a really unappealing spot. He's not available at a discount. And I think you get the same kind of upside from, a Trae Young, and you still get, 40 plus upside from Dennis Smith.
Right. I'm in the same spot. Kemba's looked outstanding lately. As we know, he's better with Cody Zeller on the floor. That's a fact. He's getting, usage-wise, he's attempted 22 or more shots in 5 straight games. If that continues, then you're going to be all right. With Kemba Walker, I would expect to see him, with 30+% usage again. That's not really the concern. It's just that he's in a price where I keep coming in elsewhere. You want to move on to the second of the third game?
Yeah, the one that has a ton to talk about.
Yep. All right. New York Knicks at the Atlanta Hawks. Imagine this. It's 2019. The Atlanta Hawks are 8-point favorites. 8-point favorites. Wow. 224.5 total. We'll start with the Hawks. I said to Josh today that if Trae Young was going to be unpopular, and earlier this morning he was, now his ownership appears to have come up a lot, that I would be on board even if Jalen Adams were to play. I know he's probable. I get that he's 8,100, but he played 38 minutes last game. I'm not saying he plays 38 minutes, but I think Trae Young can easily play 35 minutes tonight. And just given the fact that, we look at him and he's a rookie and this and that. Yeah, he's a rookie. He's had some really rough outings and all that. But you're still talking about a guy with 27% usage, 39% assist rate, that if he plays 35 minutes is probably priced very reasonably here. And he's facing the New York Knicks that don't have Ntilikina, their only good guard defender. I don't think it's crazy, but apparently the field doesn't either. He was a lot less popular earlier in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think the price tag's fine. I think it's a pretty fair price. I don't think he's underpriced anymore like he was.
3 games too,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And we know the upside that he brings. The thing that I think kind of goes overlooked with him, because everyone knows his reputation as, a guy with a ton of range and an inconsistent shooter, is that he's an excellent passer as well. And you mentioned the assist percentage. Over the last month, he's up to about 40%. So he does come with a little bit higher floor than most guys that are volatile shooters like he is. And the minutes, obviously, played like 38 last game. You have Jalen Adams probable, so I went ahead and cut Young back to 34 minutes. But it still gives me, like a 40 to 41 point projection at a price tag, 8,100 on DraftKings, 84 on FanDuel. So I think he's fine. I have him, like I said, very, very comparable to Kemba when you factor in the price. I would rather roster Dennis Smith, or I'd rather get up to Russell Westbrook. But I think it's a perfectly fine spot for Young.
Yeah, and he's also, let's not forget, he's facing the Knicks. So franchise worst 18-game losing streak, Adam. And, man, it's been brutal for them.
Yeah,
so
bad.
They're really bad, man. Really bad. I like Trae Young here. I mean, I get that. I get that he is a bit pricey, but, I went to get roses today. And next to the place I got my hair cut at, I go over there. I'm like, oh my God, there's a flower shop right next door. Brilliant. I go in there and like, how much for some roses? He's like, $79.99. And he looks at me and he goes, it's Valentine's Day. And I said, okay, thanks, pal. And I got out of there, went back to the place. There's a bunch of girls that work there. And I say, ladies, if I got you roses from next door or from the grocery store, would you notice the difference? And they're like, no, not at all. I said, all right, have a good one, girls. And then I took off and I got them from there for like a lot cheaper. Look, call me cheap. I don't care. $80 for roses that are going to die in 5 days. I can't bring myself to do it, Josh. I hear you.
I was totally waiting for the 1-800-Flowers or Sherry's Berries plug now too. The rate you've been moving.
Dude, for like, okay, let's say they last more than 5 days. They just sit there. Like, what a waste. What a colossal waste.
Is there like a Trae Young analogy here?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. There was. Thank you. So I walk in there and he says, it's Valentine's Day, right? So I look at, dude, I almost completely just forgot.
You just like got quiet. I was like, okay, cool.
It's Trae Young. Oh, he's 8,100. It's a 3-game slate. You see where I went with that? Right?
Not really, but
really?
Congrats on saving money on the
Trae
flowers.
Young is not this price on a 12-game slate, on an 11.
Okay, gotcha.
Slate,
okay, yep.
right?
Now I'm following.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are not $80 on February 15th.
Right.
Shit, they're probably like 12.
Right, but if we're following your analogy, you're also not playing Trae Young. You're going to the grocery store.
That's a great point. Here's the difference. No. What could those roses possibly give me that I don't already have? Now, there's an answer in your head, right? And I will tell you right now that I already have that. So Trae Young could reward me.
Okay.
I had to come up with something.
Yeah. All
right. So, I mean,
that's not how an analogy works, but yeah.
Well, usually you're not supposed to push back on it. You just let it rock. But yeah, he's expensive because it's the 3-game slate. What do you have elsewhere from this team? Because it's funny. You and I the other day were breaking it down. We're like, Jaylen Brown's out. Bazemore should get a decent amount of minutes. Yes. Hello, cool Jeff. V-Day pricing is very stupid. I agree. I mean, dude, listen. Usually I just do it. Like, fine, we'll do it. She was the one. It's like, listen, I don't want to do it this year. Oh my God, that's awesome. So we're gonna eat dinner here. But anyway, we were like, oh yeah, it would be there, or it's gonna be. You got Bazemore, you got Bembry with the backup point guard because there's no Jalen Adams, there's no Jeremy Lin. Vince Carter plays 25 minutes.
Yeah, that was dumb. I was gonna say that the crazier thing to me in this game, other than the Hawks being 8-point favorites, is that I actually broke down a Hawks game and did the Hawks and was like, oh, that was an easy rotation, like compared to the team they're playing. Sure. But so basically with Jalen Adams back, I gave him the backup point guard minutes to Trae Young. I cut Bembry, or I gave Bembry his 20. I gave Bazemore his 16 or 18 or whatever. John Collins is the other guy that I really liked. I have him at 34 minutes. He's played at least 32 in 3 out of the last 4 games. The one where he did not play 32 minutes was a 16-point blowout loss against I believe the Hornets. But again, it's a pretty favorable matchup here against the Knicks. They've been over the last month, they've been the 6th worst offensive rebounding team. That has gotten a bit better since they added DeAndre Jordan. But even since adding Jordan, they've been the 5th worst team overall at allowing rebounds. So I think that Collins comes down. He's my favorite play from the Hawks here. He's my favorite power forward play. Outside of him and Young, obviously you can take a chance on guys like Herter or Prince or Dedmon because it's a 3-game slate. But there's guys at all of their positions that I like more.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we'll get to them in just a moment. Anybody else here that we should discuss before moving on to Knicks?
I don't think so.
All right. Yesterday I said we should keep an eye on Mitchell Robinson. Well, we should have just played Mitchell Robinson because he went off and he actually played pretty solid defense against Joel Embiid. 28 minutes, not to say I expect that again. But Josh and I talked about this a lot today. I wouldn't be surprised going forward if it's like a 25-23, Jordan Robinson 26-22, and that's what it kind of has been recently. Believe it or not, even in games that were semi-competitive. So Mitchell Robinson just like a 1.27 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. Really solid marks there. I hope he gets some minutes here on the second of a back-to-back. But there's a lot more to worry about in this rotation than Mitchell Robinson. It is a total shit show right now, Adam.
Yeah, it really is. You can't really take anything away from what happens in previous games, or you can't take too much away from it, because if you actually pay attention to the rotations, it's almost entirely game flow dependent as the game goes on. So it really comes down to, who's playing well, who isn't, what are the different units doing. Like yesterday, we saw basically all the starters play shortened minutes because they were down 26 points, like 4 minutes into the third quarter. And guys like Mitchell Robinson and Luke Cornett and I think Kadeem Allen, like they just played, tons of minutes in the third and fourth quarters. But that's not necessarily indicative of what's going to happen today. So really all that I've been able to do, and it's a 3-game slate, so I think it's really important because it is a great matchup against Atlanta, and there's almost certainly going to be good plays from the Knicks. It's just a matter of figuring out who. For one, you want to use groups. Like, make sure that you're not getting guys that block each other out. I don't want Alonzo Trier and Kadeem Allen together. I probably don't want Kadeem Allen and Dennis Smith Jr. together, considering that every single minute Kadeem Allen played last night was without Dennis Smith Jr. on the floor, or almost every minute. I don't want Jordan and Robinson together, obviously. But all of those guys are perfectly viable plays. So it's kind of just mixing and matching. I think that Damian Dotson gets back into the starting lineup. He played 30 minutes last night. I have him at 26 tonight because, again, I just kind of wanted to project everyone for a reasonable amount of minutes. He's a 0.71 fantasy point per minute guy, but he's close to minimum salary facing the Hawks. So I like him. If Trier plays 24 to 26 minutes at 3,300, I like him. Kadeem Allen's my least favorite out of that group just because he's the most expensive, but I still think he's a reasonable play. Noah Vonleh is maybe the most interesting in tournaments because he was coming off the bench. He rejoined the starting lineup yesterday. He played 17 minutes, but he played 18 minutes. He played 15 in the first half. He was on pace for 30 minutes. Then he played 3 minutes, and the bench unit took over. So I don't know. He can play 18, he can play 30, but he's $4,000 on DraftKings. It's Noah Vonleh, who has actually been right around a fantasy point per minute player this year in a great matchup now. So I certainly have interest there. There's no one on the Knicks outside of Smith and Robinson, and to an extent DeAndre Jordan, where I'm like, oh, I really am excited to play this guy. But there's also no one, or there are 9 players where if you said I'm playing this guy, I wouldn't talk you off of it.
So Robinson.
Sorry, 8 players.
Yeah, Robinson would be my Dennis Smith Jr. But
yeah,
him and Robinson would be my favorites. But they're also everyone's favorites. So that doesn't really do me any favors, right? Like, it doesn't. I'm not telling you anybody anything they don't already know. I thought Josh made a good point this morning. Like, yeah, he's not 4K or 3,300 like all these other guys, but DeAndre Jordan, if he plays 26, 29 minutes, 28 minutes at 5,900, I mean, you're talking about Mitchell Robinson right now being projected third behind Westbrook and George in ownership. Meanwhile, DeAndre Jordan is at 8%.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get to be the one to bring that up because I know how much you love Robinson. But I mean, I'm right there with you. We talk about ownership pivots a lot, but the easiest way, or the easiest way for it to work out, is when you get one that actually leverages against the popular play. Like, it's one thing to say, oh, Mitchell Robinson's 4,100, he's popular. This player B is 4,100 and he's not, and they don't relate to each other at all. But when you have DeAndre Jordan at 8% and you have Mitchell Robinson at 40, if DeAndre Jordan gets 28 minutes, which is not out of the realm of possibility, because you have to keep in mind that in the game since he's come over, there have been several blowouts. There has been a game that he fouled out of. So while they clearly do want to develop Mitchell Robinson, there have been extenuating circumstances that are limiting Jordan's minutes. And obviously, if Jordan were to play 28 or 29 minutes, those minutes are coming from Mitchell Robinson. So not only are you getting a low on DeAndre Jordan, but you're getting a popular Mitchell Robinson playing less minutes at the same time.
Exactly. And that's what makes it most beneficial. No, you say how much I love Robinson. It's not. So let me give you a good example. Last night, excuse me, Emac and I did the early bird. We recorded a little earlier than usual in the night. I think we recorded around like 8:30 or so Eastern time. We had some things to do. And I had mentioned Mitchell Robinson to you on the deep dive, saying, like, just watch out for this guy. I'm starting to see we're starting to see some good stuff, some minutes increasing. And then it's about, I don't know, I think we're getting close to halftime. And I say, well, Mitchell Robinson could be the sneakiest play of the day tomorrow. Now, at this point, Adam, Mitchell Robinson, at the half, had played like 9 minutes, right? So I'm thinking, all right, he's only going to play, say, 18 minutes or so in this game. He didn't have a good first half at all. I'm telling you right now, if Mitchell Robinson played 18 minutes and finished with like 14 fantasy points last night, there's no way he would be even close to this popular. but then he had a huge second half, a monster second half, and now Mitchell Robinson is the chalk of all chalk. So it totally changed my opinion on him. Do I think he can still have a strong game? Yeah. But is he fail-proof? Absolutely not. Like, no way. Mitchell Robinson could play 18 minutes tonight. I would have loved him in the event that everyone thought he was going to play 18 minutes because he played that last night. But now he played 28, so everyone's, oh, well, look, Mitchell Robinson is the shiny new toy. And I was hoping I would be able to get on that prior to, but that's not the case. So why not look to DeAndre Jordan, as you mentioned, not just as a pivot off of one of the popular centers, but a pivot off of the most popular center on the same team who is directly affected by DeAndre Jordan's playing time.
Right. And I don't, and
Jalen Adams is out, by the way.
Jalen Adams.
What'd you say?
I said Jalen Adams.
Yeah. So he is out. I like Trae Young even more. I'm willing to pay that Valentine's Day premium,
Yeah.
But
Trae Young
that's it on Jordan. Kevin Huerter is available, but go ahead and because we got one more game to go through. You did a pretty solid breakdown here for New York. We've broke down the centers. Luke Cornett looked like he was being pushed out of the rotation, and then he plays 28 minutes last night. It's really tough to say. Hezonja played 6 minutes. I honestly, Adam, thought that it was just Fizdale being like, all right, you're not coming back on the court.
Right.
I didn't know it was an injury, and who knows, right? At this point, I really don't. You said Kadeem Allen's your least favorite, but I will say
out of the 3 guards.
Oh, okay, out of the 3 guards. I will say, while Hezonja is listed out, by the way, he is out. So Kadeem Allen is definitely not a lock by any stretch. But right now, Alonzo Trier around 24%. We've got Kadeem Allen coming in around 11%. And then Dotson at 15%. For me, I have Dotson below them. I know you like him a little bit more than I do. I know Josh likes him a little bit more than I do. I don't know. I'd rather take I like Kadeem Allen a little bit more, given that he actually touches the basketball, and that to me, I like. I like when guys actually have opportunity when they're on the court. So look, I'm not saying that isn't viable, but
Yeah, no, I mean, my concern with Allen is just the rotation last night, that he played 100% of his minutes without Dennis Smith Jr.
Sure. Yeah, sure. But he played the 2 games before that. They played alongside each other.
Right.
You're saying if it stays similar to yesterday, there's no question that could be a concern.
Yeah, I gave him 24 minutes. I just am not not that I'm confident in any of these minutes projections, but it's just one more reason for me to be concerned if Fizdale woke up yesterday and was like, you know what, I'm going to make Kadeem Allen just my backup point guard.
Sure. Let me ask you before we move on, because I don't think we spent enough time on it since there's only 3 games, and then we'll close it out with the Thunder and Pelicans. Probably finish this one a little early. Very rare, but it happens. Dennis Smith Jr. at 6,500 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel at 7,800. How much do you like him in terms of the point guard position in relation to everybody else? I know he did not have a solid game yesterday, played only 24 minutes. He also had 2 fouls in his first 4 minutes and did not return until about 4 or 5 minutes into the second quarter. And then his third personal foul, and then he missed another 2 minutes or so, minute and a half to close out the half. So he definitely lost minutes due to foul trouble. What are where are you at on Dennis Smith? I know you talked about it a bit, but just a little bit, elaborate a little more, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, he's my favorite play from the Knicks, and that includes Mitchell Robinson, who and I don't want people to get the wrong impression. You really like cheap Mitchell Robinson here, right? Okay, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Just didn't want anyone to get the wrong idea there. But
it's just we would have liked him more if he wasn't projected to be the highest center and essentially saying, hey, the DeAndre Jordan pivot makes a lot of sense. That doesn't mean when we talk about a pivot that we hate the guy you're pivoting from. Yeah.
Right. We just wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't point out that it's there if you want to take it.
Correct.
But yeah, no, I like Dennis Smith Jr. a lot. The minutes inconsistency since coming over to the Knicks has done a good job of keeping his price tag in check. But you can look at last night's game, like you said, and he was in early foul trouble. He also missed the minute and a half to close out the half. It also was just a really ugly game as far as second half game flow goes.
Yep,
and the first game when what
I just said that was also foul trouble. That was a third foul in the last minute and a half as well.
Yeah. And the first game when he came over, he played 25 minutes, but in that game he had like a really abbreviated opening stint, and then he got in foul trouble in the third quarter. So both games have had some semblance of foul trouble in them where he's had limited minutes. I have him projected for 32 here. He could play a lot more. He could obviously play less, but I think the price tag being where it is still really appealing because he has a 29% usage rate since coming over. He has a 37% assist percentage. Those numbers are comparable to what he was doing in Dallas without Luka.
Yep.
Where he had like a 27% usage rate, a 33% assist percentage. So I don't think it's a small sample size. I think that's what he's going to do with this opportunity. And in a great spot against the Hawks, I'm going to just go right back to him.
Yeah, me too. No question. And yes, he's going to be popular, but you can't just, if you were to play full lineups with just all unpopular players on tonight's slate, you'd have zero chance of winning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If I look at the DraftKings ownership projections, okay, we have Jeremy Lamb at 36%, followed by Dennis Smith Jr. at 33%, followed by Steven Adams at 31%, all between $5,700 and $6,500. I don't have a problem with any of those three players, but if I could only roster one of them, Smith would be the one where I'm perfectly fine taking it, and the other two I think I can find alternatives.
Right, I'm with you. And by the way, last thing here, I think. Even though Allen and Smith have played some minutes alongside each other, I prefer not to play them in the same lineup.
Yeah, so I guess real quick, group wise, like I wouldn't want Smith, and Allen and Trier together. I'd really just want one of the three of them. I wouldn't want Dotson and Trier together. I wouldn't want Vonleh and Cornette together. I wouldn't want Jordan and Robinson together. That might be it.
Pretty much it. Did you say Vonleh and Cornette? You did?
Yeah, Vonleh and Cornette.
Okay. All right, let's move it on here. OKC in New Orleans, the last game. We've got 4.5 point Thunder 4.5 point favorites. Tony Parker's been ruled out, but we expected that. 238 total. Two of the fastest paced teams in the league. OKC playing at the fastest pace since the start of January. Let's start with the Pelicans. And we have to go straight to Anthony Davis, Adam. He's 9K. Now he's basically saying like, hey, he wants to play out the rest of the season with them. But they have totally butchered this, man. Totally butchered this whole situation. Like not finding a viable trade partner at the deadline. And now you've put yourself in a situation where you didn't. I had a news article that I get every day. It's like you didn't even convince him that he was too hurt to play for the rest of the season. At least do that. It would be so believable. It's like, oh, it's Anthony Davis. Okay, yeah, he's hurt, of course. Yeah, right. But now it's, what do you do? And now what do we do? I know you said you projected him at 36 minutes the other day, or 34, whatever, 34, 36. And someone might look back on that and be like, oh, what was he thinking? Well, you know what? That game, first of all, was one of the most embarrassing performances you'll ever see. A 30-point home loss to the Magic. But Anthony Davis, he played 7 minutes in the first quarter, and then he played 9 or 8 minutes in the second quarter. So, 15 minutes there, and then he played 9 minutes in the third. So if you were to give him, 8 minutes, 9 minutes in the fourth, maybe more, because we see that he's up to 32, 33 minutes. He just never came back. And why would he? They were getting smoked. So again, what do we project him for in minutes tonight?
Yeah, I have no idea. So I will say on FanDuel at 11.5, unless you're just trying to be contrarian in tournaments, then I don't think that needs to be part of the conversation.
No.
But 9K on DraftKings, I don't know what to do. Like this is it's not a situation that you deal with really ever.
No, it's unprecedented. No, hold on. That's the right word. It is unprecedented because even if he gets the minutes, is he even is he going to attempt 8 shots like he did against Memphis where you just get lucky because he had a 14-16 double-double and 51 fantasy points. But is he going to play 33 minutes and be totally passive, even if he gets the minutes?
Right. I mean, he has a 17% usage rate in each of his last 2 games.
But he's still 9K, and he's still Anthony Davis, and it's still 238 total.
Right. And you and I talk about narratives and all that like bullshit a lot. Everyone knows what's going on with Anthony Davis. So it's not like you're getting any edge by being like, oh, I don't think Anthony Davis wants to be playing right now. I don't think he's going to do very well, because everyone's saying the same thing.
Exactly.
So my first inclination is to just try and be somewhere around the field, because I have no idea if Anthony Davis is embarrassed and he's going to go out there and play his ass off. If he doesn't want to be there and he's just going to go suck, I don't know.
If he tries to play and he's $9,000, you're going to really wish you had him. But
he would be 100% owned at this price if it was a month ago.
God. Yeah. I mean, there'd be a dummy or two out there, but he should be 100% on for sure. 100%.
And but what it comes down to for me, as far as just kind of trying to be around the field, maybe a little bit over or under or whatever, but I have no idea. And I like to think that I'm good enough at this to find other spots where I know I'm giving myself an edge by being overweight or underweight. It's not on guessing what Anthony Davis feels like doing today. We have projected for 24% ownership. I think I probably end up coming in a bit above that at 9K, just because, I'm cool with getting him in like a third of my lineups or something. But I'm trying not to just take a huge stand on him one way or the other.
I don't think it's reasonable, but we're both willing to admit we have no idea.
No, and exactly what you said about the minutes. He played 34 minutes 2 games ago. Last game was just an abomination of a game, but he played. He also sat the last 2 minutes of the first half, so he played. 15 minutes in the first half, sat the last 2 where he wasn't doing anything. So but let's say he's playing well. He plays those last 2 minutes. You're on pace for 34 minutes. So
yep, exactly.
I don't know.
Neither do I.
Nobody knows, and that's the thing. Like, if Anthony Davis, I say I want to match the field, and that's assuming that he comes in at pretty high, but not like slate, like not highest on the slate ownership. Mm-hmm. If he were like 5% owned, then by all means give me like all the Anthony Davis. I'll just win a tournament if he feels like playing. If he were 100, if he were 90% owned, give me no Anthony Davis. I'll win the slate when he scores 16 points. But assuming he comes in, somewhere in that mid range, I don't think there's
right now. We have a 24% projected.
Yeah, at 24. Let's say 30%. Like, I don't think that there's a huge edge to having 15% or to having 50%.
Right, and the issue too is that you can easily play Davis and George or Davis and Westbrook, but you're not playing Davis, George, and Westbrook. Right. So if you're playing Davis, that means one of George and Westbrook won't be in your lineup. That could be super beneficial if he just erupts, because George and Westbrook are going to be ridiculously popular. I expect the field to be double on them that they are on Davis. I think you'd agree to most of that, right? Like those should be around 40-45%, maybe higher. And there's going to be a lot of George and Westbrook lineups. There's no question. But, that is the big thing here. Like, Davis doesn't just need to be okay, but he's going to need to, I won't say, raw points beat out Westbrook or George, whoever it is, but you're going to need to come really close, because with all the value, it's really not hard to get George and Westbrook in the same lineup, and it's going to be done a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned all the value, and that's what really makes it here. It's not that there's value that we're really confident does well, but like in picking out what piece it is. But I am pretty confident in saying that 1 or 2 of the 7 sub 5K guys on the Knicks are going to do well. Like, there's going to be high scoring cheap players on this slate.
And one of those 3 or 4 value plays for the Hornets is going to do well.
Right, and you also have a couple of guys on the Thunder that are like minimum price.
Exactly. So that's where you run into some considerable trouble. I think trying to match the field makes sense. I don't even feel confident predicting what his ownership is going to be. That's why I just go off of our ownership projections, because I don't know where people are going to land. The 9K might be a little bit too shiny to pass up, but it's tough.
My approach, because again, and you're right, ownership projections are just that, they're projections. But my approach is going to be to use ours as guide and just be stricter with it than normally I am. Like, normally I have my formulas for how I use our ownership projections in figuring out my exposures. I'm going to just adjust it for Anthony Davis to get it so that he's a lot closer to our ownership projections than I do for other guys. And then wherever I end up with him, that's where I end up.
All right, enough time on AD. I think we've pretty much covered that comprehensively enough. What do you got on the rest of the Pels, Adam?
I like Drew Holiday a lot. The
Me
price
too.
tag's come down a bit. Shooting guard on FanDuel, the position's pretty bad. DraftKings, obviously point guard, shooting guard, but the price tag's nice at 8,400. Fast-paced spot. And I just kind of get the feeling that after that game against Orlando, people are going to be scared off of these Pelicans a little bit. I think this is a spot where you'll really like George and Westbrook will obviously be really popular, like we were saying, but then the team they're playing against will be under-owned, which doesn't really make sense from an upside standpoint because for both of those guys to go off, the Pels are going off too. It was actually this matchup, maybe last time they played, maybe 2 times ago, but it was in Oklahoma City. It was like a 10-point spread, and it was clearly the most appealing game on the slate, but it was just really under-owned because everyone decided it was going to blow out. And I think Drew Holiday scored like 60 points or something. And it's just the kind of same thing here where, not saying he scores 60 points, but that he's, if not the guy, he's the second guy on this team. He's playing point guard, assuming Elfrid Payton doesn't come back. He's got a 33% assist percentage since the start of December, 26.5% usage rate. He's averaged 1.2 fantasy points per minute over that stretch. He's averaged 1.28 in the 3 games since Davis came back. He's still been going out there and getting it done. I love Drew Holiday. He's one of my favorite plays on the entire slate.
Absolutely. I talked about it this morning. Really, really like Holiday, and really, really like that, on a slate with only 3 games, he's like outside the top 15 in projected ownership right now. That's significant to me. And you know what? Now, one thing though, would you be willing to roster him with Davis? Now, I actually don't think the build is optimal when you do it anyway. And I made some line with it. It's really tough to make that look good. It's doable and still fit like a Paul George. You can do it. I'm not saying you can't, but do you feel comfortable playing him with Anthony Davis?
Yes. If I can get a lineup that I like, then yeah. Like, I don't have an issue with it in a vacuum because they're both underpriced. I mean, if Davis goes out there and shows up, $9K, it doesn't matter. Like, he pays that off easily. And then Holiday still, can get his. We've seen plenty of games, especially, with this being a really fast-paced game where, I don't see any reason that Davis couldn't go for like 65 and Drew go for 50.
Right. Yep. Very doable. Any thoughts on the okay, Okafor if he starts, Etuan Moore coming off a pretty solid game in 26 minutes. He's 3,900. The backcourt rotation outside of Drew's tough to predict. I don't really have a ton of interest in getting there. And Tim Frazier got a lot of blowout run last game. And then you have Julius Randle, who is likely to play 30 plus in a close game. He's priced down. What do you make of the non-Holiday and Davis options here?
Okafor, like you said, if he starts, I like, especially at his $5,300 DraftKings price tag. It's not the most appealing matchup with Steven Adams out there, but he got 30 minutes last game, even in the blowout, which really surprised me. There's certainly a chance he goes to the bench after how badly that game went for New Orleans. But assuming he starts, I think that's too cheap of a price tag for him. Julius Randle's okay, but if Okafor starts, I have him as the clear fourth guy out of Davis, Holiday, Okafor, and Randle. And then Etuan Moore, he's not someone that's going to project well, but he's cheap enough where if he were to get around 30 minutes in a really fast-paced game here, he probably does fine.
Yeah, I think you could do worse. And, of all the value we've talked about, of all the popular value we've talked about, I don't expect Etuan Moore to be one of them. 5% projected right now. I don't think it's crazy to consider him at least decent, given how if you're, you said you can find ways to differentiate elsewhere without having to go crazy on Davis. Moore obviously isn't an exciting play, but 5%. It's the way I see it, Adam. It's not like Moore is any. It's not like you say, "Oh my God, I would never play Moore," and you're like, "Oh yeah, load up on Alonzo Trier," right?
Right.
There's you can't make a good argument that Alonzo Trier is just a way safer, way higher upside play. I don't think it can be done. The same goes for Dotson. We still don't know that they're going to get their minutes. So, just to point out that if you are saying, oh, well, I'm looking for someone low owned that's cheap that maybe could play 30 minutes in his, since returning from injury, he played 26 last game. I don't think it's crazy.
Right,
Not
exactly.
fair at
The
all.
minutes are no less secure than anyone on the Knicks. The skill set is no worse than anyone on the Knicks.
Exactly.
In that group on the Knicks that we're talking
And the
about.
game's no less favorable either.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and he played 26 last game, like you said. He also, he did play in the fourth quarter of the blowout, which actually I think is good because he did recently come back from injury and they still got him those minutes, but he subbed out with 5 minutes to go in the game. So
Right.
hypothetically he could have played 31 minutes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Kenrich Wood, by the way, we were right. We were spot on with him playing at small forward. I mean, the whole team was bad, but I don't think it's any surprise that not only are you playing further away from the basket, but now you've got two bigs in Okafor and Davis in the front court. Kenrich Williams for me is just off the table.
Yep.
All right, close us out with the Thunder. I don't think this is all that tough with Westbrook and Paul George, but I guess we could talk about Adams and Deontay Burton as well. Oh, and they got Markieff Morris.
Yeah, I like that fit actually, but
Love it.
yeah. Westbrook and George, obviously, top two plays on the slate. I have George in for 40 minutes. I have Westbrook at 37. That might be going a little overboard on George, but I don't really care. He's been that good. He's shooting 40 minutes.
I love it.
He's shooting unsustainably well, but that's made up for just by how many minutes he plays and the fact that Billy Donovan continues to completely stagger his minutes with Westbrook's over the last 12 games, which is when that started happening. For every single minute, he has a 31.7% usage rate. He's averaged 1.56 DraftKings points per minute. Now you're getting more minutes at the 4 as well with Jeremy Grant out, so that should lead to more rebounding opportunities for him. He's got his assist percentage at 18.9% is the second highest on the team over that stretch behind Westbrook. So he had a higher assist percentage than Dennis Schroeder. Now he's obviously not even playing with Schroeder. So I love George. Westbrook, I'd be shocked if he doesn't pick up his 10th consecutive triple-double here. Steven Adams if he's going to be really popular, I don't have a ton of interest there. He's normally not someone that gives you a ton of upside. It is a good matchup, but you have to keep in mind that Russell Westbrook's going to continue stealing rebounds from him. And, he's not really involved in the offense. So I'm fine with whatever I get, but he's not any sort of priority. Deontay Burton played 25 minutes last game, or 26 minutes. That doesn't necessarily have to continue. You could get minutes for Diallo. You could get more minutes for Nader. He's not a particularly productive player anyway. So I'm not really that interested in him. I'm actually more interested in Raymond Felton, who played 21 minutes last game, but just has the ball in his hands a bit more when he's out there. And, I think at 3,400 is a decent, value, a decent way to differentiate between your value plays.
All right. I like it. 55 minutes on 3 games. Love it. All right, so we'll answer these 2 questions in Slack chat, which you get Slack chat as well if you were to sign up with awesomemo.com. Just putting it out there. Deeper Dive is the promo code. So one lineup DraftKings tournament on DraftKings, would you play AD? I mean, that's just your risk tolerance, man. It's not
right.
I don't really have a good answer for that, Adam. Do you?
Right. I mean, I probably not because I like Drew Holiday more.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's an impossible question to answer,
right.
but
could AD win you a tournament? Yes. Like if that's your question, is it possible?
Yeah, I mean,
of course, at 9K, of course. Do you think playing Raymond Felton with Paul George and or Russ is counterproductive, or does it not matter now since he'll be needed more with no Schroeder? Take that one, Adam. You just talked about Felton.
Yeah, I mean, I think playing him with one of them is fine. I don't think I would want him with both. It does hurt him too that obviously George is playing with the second unit. So, I only have him projected for like 19 DraftKings points. It's not like I have some crazy projection on him.
Last one here. If you're playing just one of George or Russell on DraftKings, who would you go with? Oh my God, I don't know.
George because the position's worse.
Yep, position, and he's still $1,000 cheaper, even though he's producing at same or better numbers. So yeah, I think George would be the answer there. Anyway, thanks as always for tuning into the Deeper Dive. We hope you guys have a phenomenal All-Star break. Stay out of trouble. And by the way, we're not going anywhere just yet. Our old pal EMAC, an NBA Rising Stars primer. Later tonight, going to be on awesomemo.com. It is free on the homepage. And we'll have projections for the All-Star game on Sunday. You know it. We got everything at awesomemode.com. Be sure to check out all of our other content during the break, whether it be PGA or NHL, you name it, we've got it all. I'm sure we've got some NASCAR. I don't follow it, but we got it all at awesomemode.com. And sign up using Deeper Dive, all one word, if you would like to get all of our content behind paywall. By the way, everything will be included with the NBA package during the All-Star break. So wish you guys the best of luck tonight. Have a good Valentine's Day and have a great break. Adam, anything else before we head out until next week?
I just hope everyone has a good break, win some money tonight.
All right. Stick around for actually, we don't have live before lock, do we, Josh?
Of course we do.
You know why I was confused by this? Because on our read, the giveaway read, it said the last live before lock before the All-Star break. It threw me off.
We got me and Eddie coming up.
The read for the All Access Annual.
Yeah, it did me too, Lofty. I didn't know if we actually had a show today or not.
Yeah, I didn't. That's why yesterday I was like, wait, is it, when are we announced? I had no idea. Anyway, stick around. Live before lock crew coming up next, taking you till 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you back here next week.